food chain, you know, and go down it too. Start talking about trees and algae and grass and anyway. Um, Late to the party, so sorry if this has already been asked, but how do you think Neuralink will advance the field? Neuralink. Yeah, I've looked at their career positions a few times in the last couple of years. I caught the announcements. Actually, one of the professors I used to work at the same floor I used to work on as an advisor there from UCSF. Um, my takeaway on it is, I'm not. Okay, so I have a mixed view of Elon Musk. It's partly because he gets a lot of hype. So whenever anybody gets hyped in the press and stuff, I mean, people immediately counter that by kind of shitting on them in their heads and stuff. Um, and there's a lot of salesman-y stuff he does. There's a lot of kind of overhyped statements he makes. Um, and I don't want him to sound like I'm 100% negative on him. I'm not. I read the book about him earlier this year. Oh, a recent book recommendation. Oh yeah, I'm about to give you another book recommendation, but the other one was science fictions. I think. So anyway, Neuralink. Oh yeah, it's the book I saw. So the book I actually made improved my opinion of Elon Musk because I was talking about Neuralink. I don't know. It's the most famous. If you Amazon search Elon Musk book, I only read this like a year ago. Yeah, this book. Oh, you can't see that. It's a pretty good book. If you have a bad opinion of him like I did, this will make it slightly better. I'm still mixed on the guy, but uh, this was a good book. It was pretty revealing, and the author was kind of. I don't think Elon Musk was that happy with it because it kind of showed some of his like psychological um, weaknesses, I'll say, but it made the guy way more relatable. Anyway, that's a book. Oh, I didn't even read the book off. It's let me what is it called? Um, oh wow. Okay. Um, yeah, that's a really good take on it. Binary Ninja. Neuralink seems to jack the resolution up quite a bit, but I don't get to talk about the right speed. So yeah, I think it's cool that they're going after this because in the end, I think a bunch of scientists who use electrode arrays to study these things in animals are going to get better tools down the road. That's what's going to happen. I mean, there's this giant top-down bolus of funding that's going to push it slightly ahead. And like you said, it amounts to basically better resolution. It's cool, you know. There might be some procedural logistic things they make a little better because they have that whole like self-stitching system, but who knows how that's actually going to pan out and how glitchy that's going to be and how many problems it's going to be. But you know, in animals, that's fine. Um, but yeah, Neuralink. The That's not what you hear though, right? You hear read write to your brain, solving, repairing neural deficits, these kind of things, and that's what just like I totally go to zero on it. And I'm not wrong in thinking this because I don't know if any of you watch Rogan. This is the go to this is the go to thing he always talks about. Whenever he talks about somebody and he's talking about the future, like this is the impression he's gotten, and he sat across from the guy. So it's it's to some extent blatant misrepresentation because Rogan keeps thinking the ability to send tweets with hardware in your head is going to happen in his future in his life. I mean, this is the impression he's walked away with after hours with a guy, and it's not discouraged by him at all. By I'm talking about by Elon Musk. Um, the read write thing is psychotic because I'll tell you the we could increase the resolution. We could put intraneuronal sensors in a million neurons in a little cluster. I mean, if you're talking about the pin of a nail or something size, there's probably a million neuron bodies in that. And in theory, if we got some not even nano, like angstrom level, you know, probes. Or I guess nano would be fine, but a million little sensors individually in that. There was no redundancy. There was no like sensors that were missing. There was no like two sensors going into the same neuron. Um, just great clean signal. We're measuring a million neurons at once simultaneously. No latency or recording issues on the chips. We somehow have a chip that can has the million channel inputs and amplification to read these things, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We don't know what to do with that signal or that code. They colloquially it's referred as the neural code problem. I kind of it's not the greatest um, label for it because it makes it sound like the what's that called, the Harambe code or the Rosetta Stone, if to use a different example. Um, we don't know because so one thing I was in before I went to med school was in biochemistry, and they used to talk about this with protein folding, the protein folding code, and the idea that you could that if we solve the code, we solve protein folding, and it's like it's a bit of a misnomer to call it a code because it's really just a high highly complex dimensional like atoms colliding and interacting with each other and folding um, problem, and there's not really necessarily a we're assuming it's a straight mapping situation, and maybe it'll be close enough to that in the future or something, but to call it a neural code problem is a little misleading, but it captures the essence of it. So the problem with even if they had what I described, some million interneuronal sensors with which they're not going to do, obviously, with no SNR problems, signal to noise ratio problems, no artifacts, perfect amplification, all these things. We don't know what to do with it. What they do is I actually haven't done a lot with animal electrophysiology in the brain, but um, what they do is um, they do like they do a couple steps of PCA correlation, threshold rejection. It's just something that they've kind of figured out that shows some correlation. If you move like the rat's left arm versus right arm, you can start to see correlations in the neuronal bodies with activity. Is that the level of subtle, say, linguistic thought, or the kind of things that Elon Musk is talking about? Um, yeah, sorry, yeah, principal component analysis. Yeah, I thought you'd like the call back on that one. Um, yeah, because I was curious like a year ago, because I never did this analysis. I was curious what the analysis is, and it's basically PCA and then thresholding and correlations. It's and they do it like twice, but it doesn't matter. It's just some way to try to figure out in general. It's like if you have a standing wave at a stadium with a crowd of people, and they do the standing wave thing, uh, you're trying to reduce, say, there's 60,000 people in the stadium. You're trying to reduce that to like meaningful information, and how does it correlate with something else that's going on in the field? It's very anyway. My point is, we're not reading subtle thoughts, and this is compounded further because Elon Musk talks about, to pick on him a little further. He likes to put out this image that he's this tortured genius that has so much genius in his brain. If only he could get it through the small bottleneck, and once he hooks his brain up to text to speech, he can. It's really just the speed of his speech that's inhibiting him, and it's a fundamental misunderstanding of how thinking works. Like, if you have vague prototypical thoughts, that's all they are until you are forced to articulate them, see them mirrored back with other people, or if you write in a word processor and then you read what you wrote. That's how thinking is formed. It doesn't exist in some pure platonic stage and then is forced into anyway.